Pep Talk is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subject matter. You've been warned. Enjoy the show. The podcast for the intellectual masses, sports, entertainment, and much more. It's Pep Talk time. Is what it do. Welcome to Pep Talk, and we got a very special edition of Pep Talk right now where we're going to be previewing the British Open, and who better to do that than one of our ultimate analysts, Mr. Scott Roblin. Got a chance to call Scott. That's right, we got some cool new call technology here at Pep Talk. But I got a chance to talk to Scott Roblin, get his opinions on the Open. You can also check out Luke Hurtaby's opinions on part 2 of the Hurt Locker that we dropped on Wednesday. So without any further ado, here's the one, the only, the charming, it's Scott Roblin. So Scott, we got the British Open coming up this week. Tiger's going to be in it. That's the big headline story. What are you looking at? Who are some of your favorites going into this?
Well, yeah, definitely Tiger Woods is kind of the main draw for this tournament after missing the last 2 majors due to injury. But you know what? I'm not expecting a whole lot of Tiger Woods. You know, he hasn't really proven that coming back from injury. He's been hot right out of the gate. I'm expecting it's going to be a very, very open field, I think, for this one. As I don't think we're expecting the same results that we had with Martin Keimer's just absolutely massive win last month, I guess it would be. But you know what? I'm expecting a lot of youth to be up in this tournament. Predominantly Jordan Spieth. He just had a fantastic result at the Masters, finishing runner-up to Bubba Watson. And I think he's just an absolutely fantastic young player. He's only 20 years old, but he has just been flying through the FedEx Cup standings as of late. This also could be a tournament just because it's so wide open that first Brit could win it since 1992, since Nick Faldo won it. So you're talking guys like Luke Donald, you're talking guys like Ian Poulter, you know, that kind of group there. So Justin Rose is another name that's been thrown around, and Adam Scott, you know, he doesn't have very many tournaments left with that anchored putter. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can, rocket up the leaderboards with that anchored putter, one of his last chances to use that.
Yeah, it really seems like it's really an open field this year. A lot of players, mind you, have an opportunity to really take that threshold and put their name out there. How do you think the Canadians look going into this?
Well, Graham DeLaet hasn't had the best season ever on tour. You know, he's sitting 36th in the world. He's dropped a spot in the FedEx Cup standings, and you know he hasn't had very many good tournaments, especially with the Masters and the U.S. Open, predominantly the Masters, where he just kind of fell off the pace very, very early on, and Mike Weir even had better results than he did, which is kind of surprising, as you know, Weir seems to be on the downside of his career, and Graham DeLaet seems to be kind of the rising star in action. You know what? Just because it's such an open field, I think it does give him an excellent chance to do some damage on the leaderboard, but he's got to get going early. You know, it's that old saying that, you know, day one you can't win the tournament, but you can definitely lose it, and that seemed to be DeLaet's problem over the past couple tournaments. So if he can get a good start and at least stay consistent within probably the top 15, then I give him a pretty good shot to make some noise, especially on the third and fourth day.
Do you think one of the things with Graham DeLaet is a lot of pressure here in Canada was put on him as kind of the next great Canadian golfer to be the first to win a Open since Mike Weir? Do you think he took some of that pressure on himself a little too hard and it's kind of been in his head these last few tournaments?
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible, just because, you know, he has been the one that people think is Canada's best shot at winning a major since Mike Weir did it back in 2003. You know what? The thing about Graham DeLaet is, even though he has been very, very good on tour, and in a lot of tournaments he's been, you know, top 5 finishes, top 10 finishes, he hasn't actually won a tournament on the PGA Tour. So I think this Open is going to be very telling to see what kind of season he's going to have. If he can turn it around, and I'm not even talking about winning the tournament, but if he can get even a top 10 finish, that'd be absolutely huge for his confidence moving forward and for Canadian golf just in general.
Absolutely, be nice for them to get a win. And as you were talking about with the Brits, we kind of saw a similar thing happen last year in Wimbledon, where a Brit finally won it. Obviously, be a huge impact out there for them to have their own win their own Open.
Oh, absolutely. For yeah, it'd be huge, and I think it's the great thing about British golf right now is that there isn't one guy that everybody's riding on like Andy Murray was at the Wimbledon. You just said there's a lot of Brits in this tournament that have a good shot. You got Paul Casey, Ian Poulter, Luke Donald, Lee Westwood's won before, but I think probably the best bet out of the Brits to win is Justin Rose, who won the U.S. Open last year, and he's still playing some excellent golf at this point this season. So, you know what? It's going to be a very, very interesting tournament to see what this group of 5 or 6 Brits can do, and it'd definitely be a good storyline moving forward if they can at least make some noise and crack the top 5, and heading into cut down day or heading into the final day, if they can have a shot to win, it'll definitely be one of the big storylines of this year's Open.
Absolutely, Scott. And like we talked about at the beginning, obviously the biggest story as far as coverage for this, obviously the Brit storyline is going to be a big one to follow. You mentioned someone like Justin Rose, but the biggest story is arguably the biggest golfer in the history of the sport, at least for our generation, and that's Tiger Woods finally returning.
Yeah, Tiger Woods is coming back. I just from what I've seen in tournaments past, it just seems like something is off about his game, and this is going to be extremely telling to see if not only he'll have a chance to win this tournament, but going forward to the PGA Championship, if he'll have a shot with that. He's going up. The main thing about the Open is that honestly anything can happen, not only because of the wider.
Scott?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Oh, sorry. I think I lost you there for a second there. Sorry there.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that.
You were just talking about how hard the British Open can be and whatnot.
Yeah, I was
With
just
Tiger.
saying that. Yeah, with Tiger, it's such a competitive field this year that really anything can happen. And I was just saying that weather conditions are always a huge storyline, and in the Open, and they can really mess with the player's game. And it's not so much pinpoint accuracy; it's just basically staying alive on the course. And Tiger's proven in the past that he can do that. So if he can get his game back to normal at least, I think he could have a decent shot at making some noise in this tournament. He's been paired in a pretty favorable group on Cabrera and Henrik Stenson. He really hasn't had the best season of his career coming off his FedEx win last year. So if Tiger Woods can take advantage of those two guys who have been kind of struggling this year, he could have a shot at winning this. I'm not going to pick him to win the tournament, but you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if he finished top 5.
Absolutely. And we'll get you out of here on one last question, Scott. Who is your top 3, and who ultimately do you think walks away the winner?
Well, I think top 3. I'm definitely going to pick Justin Rose in my top 3. You know what? He's really proven himself to be a consistent threat on the tour, which I think is one of the hardest things to do in the PGA. You got a lot of players that will win championships. Just named a couple like Louis Oosthuizen, Graham McDowell, a few of the other players. They've won majors, but they really haven't continued that success. Justin Rose is kind of an exception. He won U.S. Open last year, and he's just kind of kept that rolling. He hasn't won a major since, but I think that he's going to be probably the best Brit in this tournament. I think Adam Scott's going to have a really good tournament. With an anchor putter, and he's had experience winning majors before with the Masters, not this past year, but of course the year before. And for my third spot, it's really tough to say just because it's such a wide open field. But I'll have to go with Matt Kuchar, who hasn't won a major before, but you know what, he's been up there in years past. So I'm picking Kuchar, Rose, and Scott as my top 3, and walking away with it, I think it's going to be Adam Scott walking away with it this year. I think his anchor putter is going to be working from well on this tournament. He's going to have good ball placement, and I think he's going to walk away as the Open champion.
Awesome. So you heard it from Scott Roblin. He's got Adam Scott walking away with the British Open. Scott, thank you so much for your time.
No problem.